Hey plant people, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by to spend some time with me today on the first day of 2025. Yesterday was New Year's Eve and today is the first day of January 2025. And I have spent a lot of time thinking over the past week or so about just my plant collection and this past year and kind of what I want to do in the upcoming year and how I want things to go and what I want to do differently. So we've got a lot to talk about in this video. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my favorites of 2025. So the plants, you know how this goes. These are the plants that really stood out to me for the entire year. I did only include, I think, one Hoya because I just made an entire Hoya collection video, which was my previous video to this. So if you want to see all the Hoyas in my collection, feel free to check that video out because they are all in there right now. Also, please bear with me on this lighting because it is like one of those days where it's very cloudy, but it's not totally cloudy. So there are breaks in the clouds and the sun keeps shining through, so I can't get the brightness 100% right on here. So just bear with me through that, please. Anyways, as I was saying, we are going to be talking about my favorites first. So favorite plants of 2024, period, over the entire year, the ones that have really stood out to me. And then I'm just going to talk a little bit about, I guess, reflections on this past year and some of the things just that I've learned and would do differently and things that I will be definitely implementing into the next year. And I also want to talk about my plans for 2025 and kind of the direction I want my collection to go and my mindset going into this next year, because there have been some changes that I've already been implementing, but there are definitely a lot of things that I want to do differently this year. There will, as always, be chapters in the bottom of this video. So if there is a specific section that you do want to watch and a specific section that you don't want to watch, feel free to skip through those and I will see you in that corresponding section. Starting with my favorites, we're going to go from small to larger because I can fit more plants on the table with me as I'm filming. So we're going to go through those first and then I'm going to have to kind of cycle over some of these bigger ones. This is a plant. This is not going to look like much of anything right now. So this is an Anthurium SP Morona. And this is a plant that I got from Woohoo Tropicals. This was I can't remember, what did I get? I can't remember what plant that I got, but this was a $10 just add-on thing that I picked up. And it's so cute. It's so cute right now. I love the little, this is a pendant Anthurium. So this is one of the ones with the really long strappy leaves eventually. And it looks so cool. I saw this plant and I was like, oh my gosh, how is this only $10 for this? And I guess just because it's not not as many people are interested in it, but I love it. And he has been just such a little cutie. I just love these little, the long petioles and the little, they look like snake heads almost, that kind of angular leaf shape. And it's kind of texture-wise right now, it does feel very similar to a pallidiflorum. And I'll put a photo on the screen of what it's actually supposed to look like when it matures a little bit more. I've really not seen this much of anywhere else. So again, I was just kind of surprised to see it on there and discover that, people weren't really interested in it when it's so cute. The next one is definitely one that I've spoken about a lot in my favorites videos recently. And it is a plant that I did not like whatsoever when I first saw it. I feel right now I'm kind of undecided on the mint variegation. Sometimes I just really dislike it. And some types of the mint variegation I have started to like, including this one. But when I first saw it, I was just no, it's a no for me because it has that speckly, minty variegation. And I was just really not into that for a really long time. But this one has totally won me over. So this is the Philodendron Snowdrift. I got this from Kroger it was literally $8. $8. I was like, you know what, for $8, I'll give it a shot and just kind of see how I feel about it because they were looking really sad and stuff over there too. It was in the clearance section. So I'm always a sucker for those. But I love this plant. I love this plant. Every time I see it, it is just so beautiful. And what really gets me, I think, is the pink in combination with that minty variegation. It is such like a beautiful rosy baby pink. And with that white leaf color and those little splashes of green coming out, it's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So gorgeous. And I liked this one in particular because it did have some leaves, some of the older leaves down here that have some of this like sectoral variegation versus just the mint. However, the leaves that it has been giving me have just been that kind of like minty pixely variegation, but I really don't mind it. I really don't mind it with that stem color. And for me, the stem is staying quite pink. It does eventually fade to more of like a greenish color, but there are definitely hints of that pink even in the older leaves. And this one has been so easy, which is very surprising to me, especially for something that's this white, to not have, you know, knock on wood at this point, any sort of like browning or crisping or anything like that. Like, it's just been so easy and beautiful, and it's grown so quickly. So I literally could not talk about this one, because this is one, I guess it's like a subconscious favorite, because if you had asked me like what my favorites were, this one would not come to mind whatsoever. But every time I see it, I'm just flabbergasted. It's gorgeous. Next up, we have a begonia, and this is the singular begonia that I'm going to be talking about today. I've spoken about begonias at length in the past, and I still do believe that they are very underrated because they have so many different like textures and colors and growth patterns, and they're so beautiful and so interesting and fun to grow when it's going well. Unfortunately, I don't know what happened. I'm sure it was me, like something going on with my care requirements. Like, I was not keeping up with watering or enough humidity or light, or you know how it goes. It's like something I was doing wasn't vibing with any of my begonias. So I lost almost all of my begonias. I still have a mixed pot. I don't know if you can see them right here. Yeah, you can see them. Okay. So this is like a mixed pot of my like looking glass, maculata, Lana, and something else. I can't remember what the other one was back there. And then I have a little nub of my begonia caravan, which is one of my all-time favorite begonias. And it just, like the rest, it just kind of crapped out on me. And I've had them, they've just started melting, and I would try to like repot them and cut them back and restart them, and they just weren't, I guess just however I had gotten them, they were not wanting to come back from that state. So I lost a lot of them. And honestly, like, it got down to a point, and this is not just with begonias, but we'll talk about this a little bit later. Just a lot of when they start doing like so poorly, and I'm just having to kill myself to try to bring them back to health, I don't have energy for that anymore. So if they're just, I've done everything in my power to try to care for them correctly, and they're still going downhill, I'm just going to kind of disconnect with that plant and probably get rid of it, because there comes a point when you get to like that certain state that they don't want to come back from, where it's just the effort that you have to invest to save it or potentially save it is just not worth it to me. Because I get I've said this before too, but it's like, I'm very attached to my plants. Like, these are not just like static objects to me. Like, I'm very like emotionally attached to them. So the entire time that a plant is going downhill, I'm just constantly stressed about it. And I feel like the sadness that I feel for a little while after getting rid of it is nowhere near the like stress and anxiety I feel when I'm trying to save a plant. It's just like refusing to come back. Oh, I did want to show you really quickly. So speaking of my begonia caravan, so I will first draw your attention to the begonia, which is very sad. So this is literally just like 2 sticks that are in some soil. But I do have, if you see in the back here, like this one little baby leaf that has come out, and this leaf that looks very sad, but is still holding on. So begonias can sometimes be resilient and come back from nothing. And I'm really hoping that's what's going to happen with this one, because this is one of the ones that I really do not want to let go of. Like, I love this begonia so, so much. This one is so cool because you can't really, like, this is a really poor example of what it looks like, but it is so fuzzy and so soft. It very much reminds me of the Caudex plant, the Syngiana, which I'm sure like y'all have probably seen. There's a lot of plant YouTubers who have that plant, talk about it pretty frequently. But I'll put a picture on the screen so you know what I'm talking about. But it has that same texture, especially on these baby leaves. Like, it is so incredibly soft, and it's just so beautiful when they're full size and they have that all of that like fuzz on them. And the coloration, I just love the color of like green and these like kind of faint reddish burgundy margins that come through. So very sad that, you know, this one is not doing well. I'm just kind of hoping for the best with it. However, I will also draw your attention, I don't know if you can see her face, oh, there you go, you can kind of see it there, to this planter, which my sister-in-law got me for Christmas, which is literally the cutest thing that I have ever seen in my entire life. Like, I cannot begin to explain how happy this makes me. This is called, so it's like a smart planter. Its name is Ivy, I think. If her name's not Ivy, I'll put what her name is on the screen, but I'm 90% sure her name is Ivy. But she has a little face, and it's so fun. Like, her expression changes. It's, like I said, it's like a smart planter. So you put water in here and it detects like how much light there is, how much water, like the soil moisture levels, the humidity, things like that. The only downsides of this is that it's kind of small, so you can't put like, obviously, like a huge plant in this, because this is literally the pot size, so it's like a small pot. But it does have an inner pot, so the water goes into the reservoir in here, and that just kind of sits down, so it's like a self-watering planter. And then the other downside is just like through the app, they don't have a large selection of plant types, so you can't really, I feel like you can't really get like an exact estimate on like how much water and stuff the plant that's in here needs. So I have found this one does stay pretty moist, which is great for a begonia, right? Because the begonias like moisture. The plant that I originally had in here, it was staying too moist for it, so I had to swap it out for this one. But I think this one will do really well in here, because I feel like part of the reason that this one was not doing as well previously was because I was not keeping up with watering enough. So this is definitely going to help with that. I also love, as an elder emo, I love how this leaf makes it look like it has like the side swept like emo bangs that we all had back in the day. Isn't that funny? I don't know if you can see her face in like regards to that, but I was like, this is so me. Isn't she cute? And she's like this baby pink color. I do not know where she got her from, but I'm sure if you know, like search Ivy Smart Planter, you can probably find her. And if I can find the link for it, I'll post it in the description as well. But that is so fun. Okay, back to what I was talking about, and the sun is like blasting right now, so hopefully you will be able to see this one. But so this is one of the begonias that has been a trooper, and it has stuck around and has not complained. It did have a little bit of a lapse in growth for a while, but I have moved it into this area like closer to my humidifiers along with two of my other begonias, and they seem so much happier in there with the increased humidity and me just kind of like taking a little bit more time to make sure that they're watered and they don't have any pests or anything funky going on. But anyway, so this is my begonia gunmetal. This is one of the rhizome begonias. So it's growing from this rhizome that sits across the top of the soil. And these leaves are just so unbelievable to me. So they have the interesting begonia stems where they're slightly hairy, green, kind of like this red speckled coloration on there. But the leaves, oh my gosh, that looks so cool to me. Like, I love, first of all, this shape where it has this kind of like jagged kind of like leaf shape. So cool. And then it has that minty green and black coloration with these like pale yellow veins. It is just wild. Like, this is one of the ones you see in person, you're like, holy moly, this is crazy. And like I said, this is definitely one of the more easygoing begonias that I've had. He does kind of like start wilting over when it gets really thirsty, so it kind of helps me keep an eye on it. But this is its most recent leaf. Like, do you see that veination? That is just so beautiful. And one of my like really hardcore goals going into this next year is to just keep this alive and try to get this plant to its full potential. I would love to see some like really big, beautiful leaves that look like this. Okay, this is one of 2 alocasia that I'm going to talk about today. This year, this was not the year of the begonia, and it was not the year of the alocasia, because I have indiscriminately unalived almost all of my begonia and a good amount of my alocasia. I feel like, honestly, like I just got to a point where they just kept, for both the alocasia and the begonia, like they just kept going downhill. And like I said, I was like, I do not have the energy for this. So I was like, you're either gonna have to sort it out yourself, or you're just gonna have to pass away and we're gonna move on. And that is what happened to a lot of them. I do have some plans to try to remedy their downhill trajectory going into the new year, and hopefully get the ones that I have remaining in better condition. Again, we'll talk about that at the further on in the video. But this is my Alocasia poly. This is my variegated one, or Alocasia amazonica. I don't know which is which. I'm very, 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 very surprised that this one is doing so well. This is one of the ones that I got from the Green Escape as just like the smallest little baby plug. And I literally cannot believe that this has grown this well. First of all, I had the most issues with my non-variegated version of this forever. Its purpose in life was to spite me, and all it wanted out of its existence is to hurt my feelings, and it succeeded for a very long time. It has, however, turned a new leaf, and it has been doing so much better. I moved it to my bathroom, I repotted it, and it just kind of took off out of nowhere. They seem to really like, I think it's probably has to do with like when we shower, the humidity increases in there, but my Alocasia seem to really like, I do have another one I'm gonna talk about that lives in the bathroom, but they seem to really like it in there, especially during the summer when it's warmer. It is kind of cold, because my bathroom is kind of like off the side of my house, so it's kind of, there's no rooms around it. So the cold air gets in there a little bit more than the rest of my house. So it does tend to stay a little bit more on the chilly side during the winter. But honestly, they seem not to care because they're still growing and putting out new leaves. But yeah, one of the things that I've learned this year is that I'm not going to be spending any more money on these like rare, more on the expensive side, sensitive plants like Alocasia and begonia and stuff through the mail, specifically because I have just had the hardest time, and this is not just in the winter but in the summer too. They just have a hard time. They have a hard time coming through the mail and then recovering from that. And what I've experienced a lot is that I would be able to get them like kind of in a good spot from the shipping, and they would be growing and looking really good, and then I would repot them and they would just immediately melt. And I tried so many different types of potting media to try to like remedy that. I've tried just sphagnum moss, fluval, whatever, and I just can't, I don't know, I just can't get it down. Now, of course, if I was like out at a nursery somewhere and they had like a more established plant that wouldn't have to go through the shipping process, that's a little bit different, but I'm just kind of leery to do that anymore going into this next year. But this one was very surprising to me because it's original leaf. So it came with like 2 little tiny leaves, and one of them had some variegation on it. One of them didn't have hardly any variegation. I wasn't like surprised that it didn't have a ton of variegation, because when you buy from the Green Escape, they're grower's choice. And typically, like if you buy, in my experience, like a grower's choice variegated plant, especially when it's like just a seedling, like a very small plant, you're probably not gonna have very much variegation on it. And for the price point, I can't remember how much this was. It was not very much. I feel like it was like $40 or something. Enough for me to be willing to take a risk on it. And the first leaf that it gave me was this one, which has almost no variegation on it. You can like barely see some speckling over here on this side. But then the next leaf it gave me was this one. And I was just astounded because I in no way, shape, or form expected this type of variegation on this plant. that was incredibly lucky. And then it took a really long time after that one. You can see it's like sizing up fairly well also. It took a long time after that one, and I just had no growth from it, and it was drying out so fast. I had it in a very small pot because, again, like after I'd gotten it, I was very scared of it having like root rot and stuff like that, so I didn't want to put it in a pot that was too big. So I eventually, because it was drying out so fast, I knew that it needed a repot. I went ahead and repotted it, and again, it didn't do anything for a long time, but it also wasn't going downhill, so I was like, thank goodness, like, oh my gosh, I would really be heartbroken if after it gave me this leaf, it melted. Are you kidding me? I would cry about that. I think I would cry about that. And then finally, it has just given me this leaf. And while the variegation is not very bright, do keep in mind the days are much shorter right now because it is winter and it's not getting nearly as much sunlight, but it is very present. Like, I don't know how much of it you can see on the camera, but it has a significant amount of variegation. It's almost a half moon. It's just not very bright. And I'm sure that has to do with the lighting this time of year. But again, you can see that size jump. So it has sized up again. And it does have, I can see some healthy roots in the pot, which root rot is like one of the things that has really been running rampant in these for me. So that is just such a relief. So I'm very, very happy that this one has been doing pretty well. I do also have left my pink Bambino, my pink variegated Bambino, which is doing fairly well. It's putting out a lot of like the solid white or like pinkish leaves, but they're not melting off very quickly. Like, they've been on there for quite a while, and it's continuing to grow. So I assume that one's doing okay. And then I have my dragon scale that's variegated, that had not been doing anything for quite a while, but has just recently started putting out some new leaves. So I'll give y'all an update on that in the future. And then I have a variegated Sinuata, which is, it dropped all of its leaves except for one, but it looks to be putting out a new leaf. So that one I'm still kind of like undecided on as far as like how that's going to turn out. Okay, so we're going to switch it up a little bit now, and we're going to talk about a couple of orchids. In the past month or so, I have really developed an interest in orchids, which is problematic because I'm not trying to spend a lot of money or energy on new plants, but it is just so, oh my gosh, I feel like orchids, Hoyas, plants in general, it's like, you know, when you get that bug, that itch, it just like, you feel like you need to get every plant in existence of that genus or whatever. So I allotted myself one window, and I got some, I've mentioned this, I think, when did I talk about this? In my last video? Or I talked about this at some point, but I got a couple of like these clear acrylic shells, which I'm gonna talk about that in that orchid video that will be sometime upcoming in the future, but they're like awesome, those shelves are. But I set up this one window with some shelves, and I was like, okay, this is the only space that I'm gonna give myself to put orchids. Because if I don't give myself some type of limitation, I'm just going to go absolutely insane and my entire house will be filled with them. And I don't have space for that, because then there won't be any space for me or my dogs or my husband or my niece, and it'll just be the plants and that's it. But I have completely filled that up. So I have zero space left for any more orchids at this point, which is totally fine, realistically, because I am a total newbie when it comes to orchids. And anytime you're like new into a new genus, like, you do not need it to go totally wild while you're figuring out the care for them, because it's very possible, like, if you're doing something wrong, it's better to do something wrong and just like lose a couple of plants than do something wrong and lose a whole lot of plants because you went totally wild. And while I did go wilder than I should have, I did not go absolutely insane because I only gave myself that one specific space. But anyways, I digress. The whole point of that ramble was that I am very into orchids at present. I think the thing that got me was I didn't realize they'd have interesting foliage as well. So this is the Phalaenopsis schilleriana Silver X Jungle. And look at this foliage, y'all. Foliage. Is that not absolutely gorgeous? I don't know if you can pick up on camera, but it's, the silver is like paired with this like very dark purpley plum tone, which is mirrored on the back of the leaves as well. If you can kind of see that, I don't want to like move this around too much to damage them. But you can see that kind of like dark plum color on the back of the leaves. I saw this and I was just totally blown away. This, I feel like orchids for me kind of give me that same vibe as Hoyas, where the foliage is kind of like thick and just like very unique and funky. And I'm so into that. Like that is the vibe for me. But I saw this in that combination of that like really dark purple and kind of silvery combo. Oh my gosh. And of course the flowers are absolutely gorgeous. They're kind of like a pale baby pinky color from what I remember. But yeah, I mean, how can you see this and just be like, oh yeah, no, I'm not interested. That was it for me. I saw this. I was like, okay, it's over. Done. I need 20 more, which is what I did. I'm totally crazy. It actually started with, I found 2 clearance orchids at Lowe's that were still blooming. And I was like, wow, these blooms are really beautiful. And I brought them home. One is doing fairly well. One lost pretty much all of its roots. So I'm trying to rehab that next to my humidifier at this point, but it's not looking fantastic. So I don't know exactly how that one's going to turn out. Hopefully the other one will make it. This is another one. So this is one that I also got at Lowe's. This is on my favorites list because of the blooms, because this foliage, I feel like this is a dendrobium. I don't know how you pronounce it. I'll put it on the screen. The foliage is not like ultra interesting here. It is still like quite rigid, and they grow on these like funny looking canes, which I thought was just kind of like unique. And this is some kind of support. I don't really know what I'm doing with this. I just try to like mimic what I saw on the orchid videos. Oh my gosh. Yeah, y'all give me a break. I don't know what I'm doing right now. But look at these blooms. Like look at that bloom. And it does have a scent. It's like a very light floral scent. I do not know the species of this one, but oh my gosh, these blooms, they just stand out so much. I have them living here on my dining table and just in the sunlight, like especially against, I don't really have any like, all the plants behind this are all dark green. So it just stands out with that vibrant pink so much in contrast to all that dark foliage behind it. It's just so incredibly beautiful. And it's been doing pretty well from what I can tell. I'd been watching a bunch of orchid videos, of course, as we do. And Orchid Girl has like the best series ever for newbies. And she does a combination of like orchid bark and sphagnum moss, which is what I've been doing in here. And I've just been keeping an eye on it, not letting it get like totally dried out, but trying not to like overwater it, obviously, like too much. And it seems okay. It's kept its blooms now for like 2 or 3 weeks, which I feel like is pretty good, right? So we'll see how far I go down that rabbit hole in the upcoming year. I'm gonna try not to go too crazy this next year with plants though, which is another thing we're gonna talk about. But that is always the goal, isn't it? And how many times do we listen to ourselves when we say that? This next one is an anthurium. This is one that I got from Rousseau Plant Care, which is in Atlanta. And this is a papillolaminum crossed with Carlos, which is one of their plants. And it came with, this was its oldest leaf when I had gotten it. And the reason I liked this one, I mean, at this point, don't get me wrong, like I love papillolaminums, but a lot of them look the same. So unless there's some kind of like unique attribute, because I have so many anthurium in my collection right now, so many for me to keep up with, unless it has some kind of like very interesting trait or like a different look than what I already have, I'm just not interested in it. You can kind of see even in this oldest leaf, this is what kind of drew me to it. This is what had drawn me to it. It has this kind of like heart-shaped leaf. So I thought that was so cute. And then it gave me this leaf, which is beautiful. That one looks, I would say pretty, like generally papillolaminum. Like it's a beautiful plant, but it's not like, I don't know. It just looks a lot like a lot of my other plants. But then it gave me this leaf. This is gorgeous. Look at those wide lobes. Like this is everything that I was hoping that this would be. I just cannot get over those lobes. Like that is the most beautiful leaf shape to me. It almost looks like wings, like wings folded behind like angel wings or something. Like that leaf shape is just so incredibly gorgeous. And of course the veination, Beautiful. And this one still kind of has that kind of like chocolatey emergent color to it too. So it's looking like extra special right now, but maybe if yeah, there you go. You can see the veins a little bit better that way. So yeah, totally gorgeous. This one's been really, really easy. No crisping, no issues. It's been growing vigorously since I've gotten it. I've only had this for a few months and it's given me 2 new leaves. And that's amidst it getting settled in and me repotting it and moving things around and things like that. So I feel like, considering the situation, like it's grown very, very well. This is another one that I've talked about quite frequently. This is my red papillomaminum crossed with forgetii. And this was its leaf that it had come with. This is the one I had talked about previously about how when I had gotten it, it had root rot, but the seller did disclose that before sending it to me and was kind of like asking what I wanted to do about it, because when they checked the roots weren't that great. And I said, you know what, just go ahead and send it to me, because I was pretty confident that I could rehab it. And I do now have 2 of these because I chopped that chunk in 2 and they both ended up taking. But this was the leaf that had originally come with, the one that made me want to purchase it. Again, just like very interesting veination. It does have a red sinus, so that is really beautiful. And then it gave me this leaf next, which is much smaller, but it's like pretty much intact. Very dark, very beautiful. And then this was its most recent leaf. This one, absolutely stunning. Again, I love the veination, the red little sinus in there. It's just got such a unique look to it. Like, it does look very crystallinum to me. I know it says this is a red papillomaminum crossed with a forgetii. I guess it could be forgetii, but it does look very like crystal-y to me. We'll actually go ahead and talk about this one next. So this is the Anthurium, I believe it's the Flavonadiatum, and this is the narrow form. This is a plant that I had gotten in February. My husband got this for me for my birthday. And when it came to me, it had several smaller leaves, all of which have died off. This was its first leaf that had given me. And this is the most interesting Anthurium for me. It almost looks like a veitchii, like with that ab texture, but it has very, very pink veination. You may be able to see it a little bit better on the back. I can't really bend the leaf too much, but you can see it a little bit on the back. However, so I got it. It gave me this leaf. Fantastic. Everything was going really well. Then it just did nothing. It did nothing for like February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, 8 months. Literally did nothing for 8 months. So I was like, okay, dude, what is going on with you? I took it out, checked the roots, repotted it. Like I was taking very good care of this plant because I really like this one. It wasn't doing anything. So I'd been moving some plants around. I moved it over a little bit to get a little bit more light, a little bit more like coverage from the humidifier in that area. And it seemed to like that because it gave me this leaf. So this is one of my favorite leaves in my entire collection. Like, I don't know what it is about this. It's just something about the like the length crossed with that like texture and those pink veins. And I really love the way that it stands. It has these like really long petioles and then those leaves kind of like hanging down like that. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. So this is definitely like, this was no questions asked one of my favorites for this year. I cannot wait for this one to start growing again, to get like a bunch. Like, I think this one's gonna be so gorgeous when we have a bunch of these like really long strappy leaves everywhere. And I'm kind of wondering like how much bigger it's going to get, because that was a pretty big size up there. I mean, it did kind of like focus, is working on this for quite some time, but that was a pretty good size up. So I'm hoping that the next one would be even bigger. That would be so exciting if it came out with like just a giant monster leaf that looked like this. That'd be so much fun. This is my one Hoya that I'm going to be talking about today. And this is my Hoya pubicalix. So this is one that is not rare by any means. You can find this literally anywhere. Half of this, I recently combined this. So half of this is a pubicalix Royal Hawaiian purple or whatever. Like, its growth comes out very purple. Its stems are kind of purple. The other one is just a standard pubicalix that I had found in CVS for like $10 like months and months ago. And I had chopped them done some propagations. They were growing fairly well in their respective pots. And then I decided to combine them into this one hanging pot. And this was just within the last couple of days. I went ahead and combined this. And I had like noticed how much I liked this plant quite a few times. It was something that didn't like, I just feel like I wasn't taking the time to appreciate it, because I had noticed how large some of these leaves were getting. Like, for example, this leaf right here, which was very surprising to me because I just wasn't under the impression that this one's leaves actually got this large. And I was just very taken by that. Also by how some of the leaves are like really, really splashy. If you can see that. So beautiful. It's so beautiful. And they're so glossy and dark and very minimal damage. So they don't have a lot of damage just from like growth or like development, like when they're in that really small state and they're expanding, or from pests or anything. It's just like very easy going and stays looking very nice. And it was just one that I hadn't like really consciously thought about being a favorite, again, because it's hanging up, first of all. So it's like, it's not in my face all the time because it's hanging up on my curtain rod. And I have so many other Hoyas that I've been focusing on, and those are like a lot more flashy. You know, some of those are more flashy. So it's just not something I was really thinking about. And when I combined this and I just saw all of it hanging there together, I was like, you know what? I really, really love this plant. It is so beautiful and it's so easy and it's not problematic. If you're looking for a low effort Hoya that is just absolutely gorgeous, it grows really fast, Pubic Calyx is the one for you. I know this is a common one. Like, you can find this at Lowe's, Home Depot. Like I said, I found mine at CVS. Most plant, like kind of like privately owned nurseries or even chains will have these. Like, they're very, very common, but they're just so easy and so beautiful. And this is one that I definitely have not appreciated as much as I should, because it truly is one of my favorites. If I had seen a video of myself talking about how a Maranta was one of my favorite plants of the year in the past, I would not have believed myself, because I have never liked Marantas, mostly because I was scared to death of them, because I've had, as many of us have, very, very poor experience with Calatheas. And in my head, I know they're different, but they were too similar. Like, the leaf shape and texture and growth pattern and everything were just like way too similar in my head for them to be so different. And they have been so different, because this one has been so much easier than any Calathea that I've ever had any experience with. This is actually my second one. I do have a silver band too, which has been doing really well for a while, but it's looking kind of sad recently. So I need to take that down and see what's going on with this. But I have this sitting on top of my Hoya shelves, and the way that it looks with these like tendrils hanging down, I can't get over this. This is so pretty. Like, and I love the movement of the leaves, how during the day, I think it's during the day, I may have it reversed, but it's like during the day, they're like folded down all tightly. Or is it opposite? I don't know. At one part of the day, they're like folded down really tightly, and the other part of the day, they're all like floofed up. And it's just so funny to watch them, to see how different they are like in the morning versus at night. And it's kind of fun, but these are like such an aesthetically pleasing plant to have sitting somewhere, and these beautiful, beautiful tendrils hanging down with all of these like fluffy leaves. It's so pretty, and I just can't believe how easy this is in. It does like to be fairly moist, so definitely do not let it dry out too much, because they will crisp. Definitely not as bad as Calatheas. But they do crisp. I have noticed, however, I normally just like cut the tips off if they start getting too crispy, and the browning typically does not continue up the leaf once I cut the tip off. And I do that occasionally just so that it looks a little bit nicer. But I just make sure that she doesn't dry out a whole lot, and she's under my stronger fancy grow lights, but she's kind of like off to the edge of the light. So like if the light's shining right here, she's like kind of over here, because I have my really big philodendron Weeks red up there, which is like a light hog. It literally, because its leaves are so big, it just like takes out all of the light. But it doesn't seem to care. It's been growing really well. She's really fluffy, beautiful. The green is so pretty, like these different colorations of green. Just such a beautiful, this is a plant that, another plant that seems kind of like happy, you know, like has a good personality. Okay, we've got to talk about Miss Black Velvet. This plant, this is wild to me, like how big these leaves have gotten. I've talked about this previously multiple times. I don't know. I don't know why her leaves are so big or why she's so happy. I literally can barely even see any roots in here and they don't look great. But she doesn't seem to care. She's just living her best life in my bathroom and she's about to put out what looks to be a fairly large new leaf. So we'll see what happens there. These are her older leaves. So this is the one that I found at Home Depot. It was like half dead. It was like sitting outside in the cold when it shouldn't have been. Took it home, rehabbed it. It was like growing okay for a couple of years. And then just out of nowhere after I moved into my bathroom, probably because of the humidity, just went totally crazy. So these were, I was like, when these leaves started coming out, because before they were probably like this big. So huge size difference. When these started coming out, I was so shocked. And you can see how they just keep increasing. I was like, oh my gosh, this is, when this leaf came out, I was like, what is going on? Do I have some kind of like mutated plant? Because this is, I had no idea these leaves got this big. And then it started doing this. Look at these leaves. Can you believe this? Look at how big this freaking leaf is. I don't know. I literally, like, I always say this. I have no idea. I have no idea what she's doing. I love and value and appreciate her and all of her effort that she's putting into these leaves. But what in the heck? Look at how big these leaves are. Isn't that crazy? And she's been so easy. Obviously she's like holding on to like all these leaves. These don't even get that much sun because the sun in my bathroom is coming from the side towards her like bigger leaves. But holy moly. Like this is very clearly a favorite. This is, I feel very, very blessed to have this plant because it is just so astounding to me. And then there's her new leaf that's coming out. You can see it. Look, this is a pretty big leaf spike here. So hopefully that'll be a good update. Surely it cannot get bigger. You know, I say this every time, but surely that leaf cannot get bigger than this leaf. This is just ridiculous. This one's leaves are literally almost as big. Well, granted, my regal shield is not getting enough light, but some of these leaves are bigger than those. It's nuts. This is my Schismatoglottis wallachii. And this is like a no question favorite for me also. This one I have sitting in my living room. It's getting some light from a south facing window and I have it kind of like beside my fireplace. And I just love it there because I always get to look at these gorgeous, again, this one's leaves are like very fluffy and bouncy and lively, which I absolutely love. This is one that I got, I think this was like $15 at Lowe's or something when I got it. I do see these around pretty frequently right now at Lowe's and Home Depot and stuff. And for me, this has been such an easy plant. The biggest thing for this is they are very, very thirsty. At least all the Schismatoglottis that I have in my collection are very thirsty plants. They do not like to dry out totally. And you'll notice that they'll start kind of like a peace lily. They'll kind of start wilting downwards when they start getting thirsty. And once you see those leaves starting to go downwards, just go ahead and get it a very thorough watering. This is one too that I don't just pour water into it. I always take it to the sink and flush it all the way through to make sure that all of the soil is saturated because it is so thirsty and it wants to stay consistently moist. I've really had pretty much no issues with this one. It did have thrips at one point and I really struggled getting rid of those. But once I finally got those under control, it has not had a single issue since. And she is just, there's a million plants in here. It sprouts babies like no one's business. And she's just been really easy to care for, beautiful, very much a statement plant when it gets really full and nice like this. And again, I just like how like fluffy and bouncy and nice the leaves are. She doesn't really like crisp up or anything. You know what? I have had another issue with her, and that is that she will not stop blooming, which is, you know, not necessarily a bad thing, but when I go to Lowe's and I see the ones they have for sale there, they have these like really big, giant, beautiful leaves. And my leaves are like 50% of that size. And I feel like it's because she will not stop blooming. Like she is not interested in having big foliage. She just wants to have flowers. And so I've been cutting them all off. And she slowed down a little bit and has been putting out some more leaves. So hopefully eventually we'll get like a little bit of an increase in leaf size. But until then, I'm definitely appreciating her as she is. All right, this is one that's gonna be a little bit difficult to show y'all. It is kind of bare here on the bottom part of the stem. So this is my, what is this? This is a Rhaphidophora foraminifera variegated. That is what this is. And I'm very disappointed because this is probably one of my all-time favorite plants, period. When I got it, it was fairly small, grew very, very fast, sized up very fast. If you can see these upper leaves with these, how am I gonna show this to y'all? I can tip it over a little bit. You can see the fenestrations already developing in there. I've not had this plant for very long, maybe like 5 months or so. But it was growing fantastically. This is my top cut. So this is kind of like a chop and extend deal here. So it was growing like crazy. It is ridiculously rooted into this moss pole. I don't think you can see it because of the glare, but its roots are absolutely insane and they're growing very quickly. Then it developed some kind of like weird fungal thing. I had it pretty close to my humidifier and I was wondering if it had something to do with that. I had to chop off, that's why all of its leaves are missing on the bottom. And this was its last leaf that was still on there, and I'd noticed that it had a little bit of that splotching, and this next one's looking a little funny too, so I probably need to treat that one more time. But you can see maybe these kind of like this yellowish, spotty, you can see it on the backs of the leaves. Like, I don't know what that is, but it's definitely something fungal related, which I was assuming had to do with like its proximity to the humidifier. Like maybe it just was not into that. So I chopped it up, and I have 2 more leaf cuttings that I'm trying to root. And I have this one, which is my top cut, and it did finally put out, it was like in the midst of putting out a leaf when I had to cut it because of that like fungal issue. I didn't want to lose the plant. So this was the leaf that I had been putting out, and it finally unfurled that one. And it does have the tip. Let's see if I can get this over here. I don't know if you can see, but it has like the very tip of a new leaf coming out right here. Like right in the top of this. So it is growing, which is a huge relief, but this plant is so beautiful. I love this variegation, how it's not white. It's kind of like this subtle, like green. It's like green on green variegation. It is so beautiful. And just like the distribution, I guess, of the variegation, like the different pieces that are these different colors of green, like the balance is so pretty. It's so pretty. And like I said, it's like sizing up so fast. It's getting so many fenestrations. And I just really, really hope that this like fungal issue does not continue and that I'm able to get that under control. I'm going to spray after these videos. I'm going to spray this down again because this does have a little bit of that spotting to it. Not nearly as much. And this leaf was on the plant before I chopped it. But yeah, so this one's actually very easy. Like like I said, it roots like crazy into a moss pole, grows very, very fast. Pretty minimal care required. It's like happy no matter what. Just don't let it obviously dry like all the way out. But it was like, for me, it's been very easy other than the weird fungal thing. But when these get like super big and they have those giant fenestrated leaves, oh my gosh. And just thinking of that with this variegation, perfection. So hopefully that is what will happen and we will not have any more of these fungal issues going into 2025. All right, y'all, we have got one more to talk about. And this is one that I've talked about quite a lot also. It is my golden orchid cactus, and I have this hanging in my living room window. It looks phenomenal there. Like it hanging down with all these like long, tendrily, whatever you call these on a cactus. It is just absolutely gorgeous. Like this growth pattern, can you see these little like new pieces sticking up at the top? I love that. I love how long these, what are these called on a cactus? They're not leaves. I'll have to look it up. But these long pieces, it's been growing like crazy. Like it has all these new little, isn't that funny? These like little tiny pieces at the end. And it's been pretty easy going. It's grown so well. And another reason, let me set her down here. Another reason that I had to talk about this one today is that it is blooming. Look at these blooms. Are those not the most beautiful flowers you have ever seen? It's so incredibly beautiful. I cannot believe that. And this is definitely, I mean, I've only had this plant for like 6 months again. And like I've repotted it, I've moved it around a few times, and just for it to grow as well as it has and to bloom for me immediately the very first year that I've had it, that is so crazy. Like it has been so easy going. And again, this is like definitely another statement plant when you have it hanging because it is so long. These tendrils hanging down are just like such a sight to see, you know. And then you have these on the ends when it starts blooming. 10 out of 10. Could not recommend this anymore. This was another year that I got very into these like jungle cactuses. I got this. I got the fern leaf cactus, which is kind of struggling. Like that one was not in good shape when I'd gotten it. And I've gotten my, I don't think they're a jungle cactus, but like my holiday cactus, my Thanksgiving cactus, which I also really love. And my, what's the other one? Like a curly Sue or something. It's like this one, but it has like twisted fronds or whatever you call these. And they've all been surprisingly pretty great. Other than, like I said, the fern leaf cactus, that was like a shipping issue. It just had a hard time. And then my holiday cactus, when I repotted it, it did lose some of its, little pieces, which was sad, but it's still doing fairly well. But this is definitely the one that has done the best out of everybody. And I think that if you like hanging plants, especially like this kind of gives me the vibe of like Ripsalis, that kind of like same feel to it. You would probably really like this if you like Ripsalis. And again, just like hanging in a window, amazing. All right, y'all, so that is going to be it for my favorites of the year section. Next, I'm going to talk a little bit about, just like I was saying before, like my plans for this next year and kind of like where I want my collection to go and the things that I want to do differently. And then also just like some reflections on 2024. So if you are only here for the favorites portion, I still appreciate you so much. And if you have time, please like, please subscribe. It means so much to me. And I will see you in the next one if you want to jump off here. We're going to jump into reflections on this last year because I have a lot of opinions about my past year of plant care and just the things that have really been on my mind recently. The number one thing that I'm just like is going to be the strongest theme going into this next year is going to be to appreciate what I have, because I have so many beautiful plants in my collection and so many plants that bring me so much joy. And the thing is, like, I think it's partially just my personality and like us as collectors, I feel like kind of have the same, I wouldn't call it an issue, but it's definitely, it can be negative when you have this like very strong drive to collect things. Excuse you? Do you have an attitude? You're interrupting me. You are interrupting me. My dog's throwing a fit in the background because I've been filming for too long and ignoring him, it seems like. As I was saying, but this like very strong drive to collect, to acquire, we see something, and I guess I'll just speak for myself. So I see something and it's something that I think is really beautiful, like a really beautiful plant, whatever. And I'm like, man, I really want that in my collection. Like I would like to be able to appreciate that here in my home. And I get it. And, you know, I'm very like taken by it for quite some time. And then I just kind of forget about it and I move on to the next thing. And then there's something, because the thing is, there's always going to be something else. Like we're never going to have every single plant that exists. There's always going to be a new species, a new variety of something, a new variegation pattern, a mutation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like, if I keep doing this, I'm just going to have a bunch of plants that I really don't care about. Like I'm not appreciating any of the plants that I have because I keep wanting this next plant, this other thing, instead of spending that time and investing that energy into the plants that I already have in my collection. Because when you have this amount of plants, or even like any amount of plants, really, like even if you only have like 20 plants or something, there's always something you can do. There's always something that needs to be watered, repot, chopped, propagated, treated for pests, like something. There's always something that needs to be done, always. And instead of spending that time and energy and money in new plants, and then, because like when you get a new plant, I feel like it also adds to my stress. He is really going off. He is so mad at me right now. Bash. He has got the biggest attitude, I'm telling you. Sorry, this is my life with this dog. Like, I can't ever focus on something for more than 5 minutes. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, it contributes to my stress so much. Like something that I was like really, because I've been really evaluating my plant care, my plant habits, etc. And I was like, you know what? These new plants always contribute to my stress. Like, yes, there's joy that is associated with that, but there's a lot of stress too, because not only do you have to like worry about the plant getting here safely, not getting held up at the post office, unboxing it, and then if there's problems with it, you have to contact the seller and you have to like, you know, negotiate that. And then once you get all that squared away, you have this like brand new plant that's new to your environment. There's normally some kind of stress that's associated with shipping or it acclimating to its new home. And then you have to worry about like when it starts dropping leaves, like, is this just acclimation or is it going downhill? Do I need to do something to like rehab it? You know, I got to check the roots and make sure the roots are doing okay. Is it getting enough humidity? Is it getting enough light? Are there pests? I've got to isolate it. So it's like all of these things. So it's like I keep bringing these new plants in and I'm having to go through all this process with those. And I'm very like emotionally invested in these new plants because I just got them, and you spend money on these plants and it's like, obviously not only do you love them, but you don't want to like spend this money on it and it just immediately pass on. So it's like, there's all this stress that's associated with it too. And I'm like, why do I keep doing that to myself? Because I'm not even spending time and energy on the plants that I already have, but I'm spending all this time and energy and like emotional space on buying new plants. I was like, you know, that just doesn't make sense. And it is not feasible for me to have every new plant that I see that I want, because there's always going to be a new plant. So if I can't get in the mind space of like appreciating what I have and not getting caught up in like all these new things all the time, like of course there are going to be plants that you want to add to your collection, and that's totally reasonable because you're going to have plants coming in and going out, etc. But just to keep it in a reasonable place where I'm not being overwhelmed by acclimating and just like dealing with all of these new plants, but rather really nurturing the plants that I already have and taking the time to appreciate those plants that I already have, because I really just lose, I wouldn't say that I lose interest in it, but I've really very much lose focus on what I already have if there's always something new coming in, you know? Kind of on that note, one thing that I have noticed also is there are people like that I watch their videos, and they have plants, like I cannot remember, I'll put her name on the screen, but there's this one YouTube channel that I just love. She has like the best personality. And she has this, I think it was like a lemon lime pothos. That is a very common plant, right? Like you can find that plant literally anywhere. And it was like, she had just invested so much effort in it and time and love. And you can just see that reflected in the plant. And its growth was so beautiful. And I'm just sitting here and I'm thinking, I'm like, you know, that's a common plant, but she has spent so much effort and time and energy into growing that plant well. And I have these like, you know, like rare plants or whatever that have been struggling since I've gotten them and look like total crap. And I'm like, why am I doing that? Like I'm spending money on these plants. It's like not necessarily because they're rare, but because, you know, when they're uncommon, they're interesting. You don't see it all the time. Like you're interested in growing that plant and just seeing what happens. But it's like, I know a lot of these plants, like I was mentioning earlier, like these like kind of like sensitive plants, like variegated alocasia and stuff that I'm buying and having shipped. And it's like, I know that they're not going to do well. And I know statistically, based on my previous experience when I've done that and like bought these plants and they've shipped and they've melted like a lot of times, more times than they survived. I'm just like, why am I doing that to myself? And I've just found that like a lot of these rare and uncommon plants, and like you see all these like beautiful variegated alocasia and stuff like that on Instagram that are like huge and gorgeous. And it's like my environment and my care requirements are not what that plant needs to look like that. So why am I buying that plant? when I know it's not going to look like that for me. Like, it's going to look terrible for me because it doesn't have the correct environment, this like tropical, humid environment. And I can't provide it with its care requirements, or I'm not willing to provide it with those care requirements, like based on my lifestyle. Why am I doing that to myself? You know, it's like, yes, I love that plant. I would love to have that plant, but it's not compatible. It's not compatible with me. So why not grow a plant that is compatible with me and my care requirements in my environment and grow it really well? And it's going to look 50 million times better than that other plant would if I'd gotten that. So yeah, in summary, I just need to appreciate what I have. I have my hands full. Like, I have my hands full with all these dang plants. I wanted all these plants. I love all these plants. And I need to spend my time taking care of these plants instead of giving myself more work when I really don't have the time or energy to deal with anything else at this point. Of course, you know, like, I'm not going to go forever without getting a new plant. Like, I will definitely end up getting some kind of new plants in this next year. But I just want to be very, very selective about the plant, and not just whether or not I love the plant, but if it is compatible to my environment and the care that I'm going to give it, so that I know that it's going to like do well and it's going to thrive, and I'm not going to have this little like dinky half dead thing that I have to deal with for 6 months because I refuse to let it go, even though it's like trying its hardest to pass away, and then I'm stressed out the entire time and it ends up dying anyways. Like, what's the point of that? Anyway, I'm gonna leave y'all with just like a few of the things that I'm kind of planning for this next year and just like the next couple of months, and some things that I'm planning for the very recent future that I'm gonna try to film depending on what my schedule looks like and like the time I have allotted to accomplishing these tasks, because I do have school starting again. I've got work, you know, it takes a long time to edit these videos and get these like uploaded and stuff on YouTube. So these are all things that I have to take in consideration. So if I don't film every single thing that I'm doing in my plant collection, that's why. It's just like, it's, you know, sometimes it's really hard to balance everything. I mean, I'm sure we all understand that, you know, like balance everything in life, but I will try to keep y'all like as updated as possible. And there are definitely some things that I want to film. One of the main things that I want to accomplish, which I've already got the stuff ordered for this, is I want to do a sulfur treatment on all of my Hoya for flat mites. I have had it in my head kind of for a while that they've probably had flat mites, because there are just a few of them that have not been growing well. They've been doing like that nubby growth, like weird discoloration and stuff on the leaves, and they're all in an enclosed area. Over here, they're all kind of like stuffed together. So if one has them, they probably all have it. So it's just something that I'm gonna have to do. I've never treated for flat mites before. My Hoya collection has definitely like kind of exploded this past year, so I do have a lot more than I previously had. And I had recently, like, I've combined a few of them. I've chopped, as I've mentioned, chopped a lot of them back and propagated, so they are looking like, I feel like they're set up to grow pretty well. But I do definitely need to do a sulfur treatment to get on top of the flat mites. And even if there aren't flat mites on every single one of those, to prevent that occurring, because I had brought, I mean, you never know when you're buying a bunch of new plants, like, you can't see flat mites. So it's very possible and even probable that they do have flat mites. And when you do have them in an enclosed space like I do, like, if you put a Hoya over there with flat mites, everyone has flat mites now, and that's just the way that it is. So from what I'm reading, I'm gonna have to spray. I got like an electric hand sprayer, like a smaller one, and I got some sulfur powder. So I'm gonna have to take all of those out, spray them down, let that sit for like a week or so, wash it all off, and then I'll probably do another treatment one more time to start off with. And then my plan is to just kind of like, I really do not want to do it that frequently, because it is a pain in the butt to spray all these freaking Hoya down. But I do want to kind of like keep on top of it periodically, just so that I don't have like any kind of like crazy outbreak happening, because I probably will be getting one or more new plants, like I said, at some point. So probably, I feel like maybe like once every 6 months or so, I'm probably going to try to do that, just to stay on top of things and make sure that everyone's doing well and nobody is infested with anything funky. So that is my #1 goal. I think that is supposed to be coming, I would love for it to come this weekend, But I think it may be, part of it may be coming next week, the beginning of next week. So that may be something that I have to do next weekend. It is kind of complicated too because I'm not spraying that inside. Like, I don't want to deal with the smell. So I'm probably going to do it outside, like in my garage, because it's like, it's really cold right now, which is another complication this time of year. So we'll see. Like I said, I'm going to try to film it. If anyone else has been thinking about the whole flat mite situation, has been thinking about doing a sulfur treatment, and that's something that you want to see, just leave a comment on this video and I'll try to prioritize that for us. And then another thing that I want to do is I want to switch some of my alocasia over to no drainage. And then if they do well, probably all of them over to no drainage. I love the idea of no drainage just because I don't have to worry about like things overflowing and like having trays up under everything. Like, I really like the idea of just having everything enclosed in one vessel. No drainage is a little bit tricky because you definitely do not want to overwater, because there's nowhere for the water to go if it's like kind of consolidated inside of that vessel. So, I mean, you know, I've been growing plants for years now, so I feel like I kind of got a handle on things enough to experiment with that a little bit. And as I mentioned earlier, my alocasias just have not been doing well. And I think it probably has something to do with the soil mix. I've tried every soil mix under the sun, but it is just not, something is not vibing. You know, something is not vibing. So I want to try something new because I really want, I wish all of my alocasias would do as well as my black velvet is. And honestly, even if this ends up working, I'm going to start on some of my lower priority alocasia. Like, I wouldn't be as devastated if I lost them, and kind of work my way up to some of my more important ones if it works out well. So I do have a few that I'm going to experiment with first and kind of see what happens. And if it all goes well, which I'm thinking it probably will, because I've seen a lot of other YouTubers and plant people that I follow that have been growing in no drainage, and their plants look absolutely phenomenal. So I feel a little bit confident that this is going to work and that they're going to like this more than their current setup. I also got some other soil components that I want to kind of like change their mix just a little bit and kind of see in combination to the no drainage how that goes. And hopefully they'll start growing a little bit better and we will not lose anybody else. I would also love, like, this is probably a goal. I feel like this is probably my main like goal for the new year, would be to get my anthurium growing really well so that I can breed them. That would be amazing if I could cross some of these guys. I have had several inflows, but I've just been cutting them off because I really want them to focus on like leaf and root growth right now. And then once they get like a little bit healthier and more established and more mature, then I'll look at crossing them, you know, in the future. But that would be so much fun for me. Like, I would love to do that and kind of like make my own and just kind of see what happens. I would probably start on just like with one or two to begin with, because like, you never know, if it worked and then I had a bunch of berries and I have like a million trays of seedlings, like, that's really going to stress me out. So I'm not going to try to go like overboard with it to begin with, but I do think that would be really fun if I could get a few of them to that point where I could cross them and just kind of like experiment with that. That would also be, I feel like that would be pretty fun video wise for us to do that and see, just kind of like see that process and see what happens. So yeah, I would love to do that. But just to simplify things, yeah, I feel like my overall vibe for this new year is just to take care of what I have, appreciate what I have, grow the plants that I have to their full potential. Because like I said, I'm so blessed. Like, I'm so fortunate to have the plants that I do and to have them even doing as well as they are at this point, even though like I'm very confident that I could do a lot better with them if I invested more time and effort into them instead of into bringing in new plants. But yeah, I just have so much to appreciate, and I just really think that I want to slow down and appreciate what I have and not keep feeding into that like frenzy of wanting to acquire new plants. Because I definitely have like, it's like a compulsion, you know, it's like to acquire all these new plants and to collect. And I just feel like I really need to like work on breaking myself out of that, because it can be so bad sometimes. And normally if I can like not succumb to the compulsion to buy a new plant and like give myself like a day or something. I normally don't even feel the same about it. So it's like, what am I doing? You know, what am I doing? I have so much to appreciate. Like, I just need to, and you know what I'm going to do? Every single time I feel the urge to buy a new plant, I'm going to go through my collection and I'm going to find something that needs to be done, and I'm going to do that instead. Because every single time I'm like working on plant chores or something, like I do not want to buy new plants for like a while. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm tired. Like this is a lot of effort. Like I do not need to be bringing any more plants in here. And then everything's going well for a while and I forget about how much energy it is and like how much work it is. And I'm like, you know what? I do want this new plant. And then I get it and I'm having to like unbox it and acclimate it and do all this stuff. And I'm like, again, I'm like, what am I doing? So I just need to chill. I need to chill and take my time and slow down and appreciate everything that I already have. All right, y'all, I am out of energy at this point. Like I've been talking, oh my God, I've been talking for so long and I'm tired and I haven't eaten yet. So I'm starving to death. I feel like this was kind of like rambly and all over the place because I didn't really plan this. I was just kind of like, whatever I was thinking, like I was just going to talk about at this point. And I'm going to try to like consolidate my thoughts a little bit more, and I'll kind of post, anything else that I may kind of like have goals for in the new year in the description. So if you're interested in that, just check out the description and I'll kind of like have a more consolidated, less rambly version of this. If you made it this far, I appreciate y'all so much. Thank you so much for sticking around and listening to my ramblings over 2024 and 2025's like potential things that I want to accomplish, whatever. I really like truly appreciate y'all so much. Like this has been it'll be 1 year on YouTube in February, I think, that I've been making videos, and this has been so much fun for me. Like, I know that you hear like being on the other side of the camera and just be like a consumer, you know, like someone that watches YouTube videos, like you hear people like talk to their subscribers all the time being like, oh, you know, like, thank you so much. Like, I appreciate you. And it's like, it's true. It is like so crazy to be on the other side of this and have people who are like interested in what you have to say. And like, I've said this before, but like collecting plants, like growing these like organic things and like sharing that with other individuals it really is special. Genuinely it is. And like the connections that you make and the other people that share this like passion for nurturing and growing and cultivating this like collection of plants and like gardening and things like that. Like I said, these are not just static like decorations for me. These are living things, you know, and I feel a connection to those. And I feel like a lot of us have that same kind of feeling where we're very like connected to these plants and we love them, you know, we have like an emotional connection to them. And it's just like very nurturing to your soul to grow these things and watch them develop, and then also share that with other people who feel the same way. So I genuinely, you know, like every conversation that I've had, everybody that I've met through YouTube and like everyone else's videos that I watch and the comments that you leave, and even if you don't leave comments or like we haven't personally interacted or anything, just you being here and like watching my videos and stuff is very special to me, and it does mean a lot. And I appreciate each and every one of y'all for subscribing and liking and just leaving comments and connecting, because it's so much fun to share this hobby with other people who feel the same way that you do. Because, you know, plant people, you can't describe this feeling and this like urge that you have to grow things and to like the small changes that we see every single day that are so special to us. It's so hard to communicate that to someone who doesn't understand it, isn't into plants. So having other people out there to connect to that do feel the same way is just like such an incredible experience. And genuinely thank y'all so much for this past year, for sticking around and listening to my videos and listening to me talk about like all this like planty stuff that, you know, it's just fun to talk about. It's fun to share. And I appreciate y'all being here. And I hope to keep you around for the next year and to meet other people. And if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It means so much to me. And I'd love to have you to be a subscriber and part of the channel. And I will see you guys in the next one, which I definitely want to do an orchid video. I want to do an orchid video about like how I've been feeling about orchids recently in my collection with that. But I also want to do hopefully that like sulfur treatment if those come in the next week or so. We'll see how that goes and if I have the emotional energy to record that, because that is going to be a pain in the butt. Like I said, that's going to be one of the stressful situations. That's going to be a great way to kick off my I do not need any more freaking plants, because after I do that treatment, I'm not going to want any for a long time. I promise you that. But anyways, thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you so much for tuning in, subscribing, liking, all of that mumbo jumbo. Truly appreciate y'all. And I will see y'all in the next one, hopefully. Okay, bye.